campaigns. Fast forward to Barack Obama winning his second election, and you saw the exact same things being said, except it was being said about Democrats. You know, and I think your point is well taken, is the fact that in politics, nothing lasts forever. As soon as you're on top, you're just that much closer to being on bottom.
That's a nice way to put it.
Write that down. Jump in, I'm sorry, free for all.
Because I think, this is one of the things that, just looking at it tactically, and it just amazes me that when you've got, like I said, like the Democrats nationally, we're getting hammered over this thing saying, oh, you're too close to the president. Well, what they should have done from a tactical standpoint, Republicans tend to do a better job of this. They don't let you see, they don't want you to see them sweat. So they would at least say, well, look, I disagree with the president, but I agree with him on minimum wage. I agree, whatever. I mean, whatever. And I think that it turned out to, I think that's one of the reasons the Democrats lost so badly, because you can't run away from the guy at the top.
Discipline.
So you've got to, and I think in 2006, the Republicans ran into this, but on a lesser scale, because the Republicans, as in general, tend to have more discipline.
Yeah, I ran Jim Talent's U.S. Senate campaign in 2006, and it was the exact reverse situation where you had George W. Bush being incredibly unpopular, and we made a decision that as a campaign, all throughout the entire campaign, that listen, all the bad stuff about George W. Bush and the way people feel about him, you're going to get glommed on. That's going to be glommed onto you, whether you like it or not. Now, if you want to lose some additional votes, go ahead and seem like you're a disloyal person.
Right.
Then you're going to lose. You've already lost all the independents. You're not going to get any of the Democrats. You want to lose some Republicans? Make someone feel like you're stabbing their guy in the back.
Well, I think that's why
Welcome to my
Talent
world.
just narrowly lost. He narrowly lost in 2006 when there was a bloodbath for many Republicans in other states, and I think that was why, because Talent shrewdly did not run away from Bush, because he saw that. It just amazes me that people didn't get that. You're going to get tagged with the president anyway, and so you're a candidate in Kentucky, and you won't admit whether or not you voted for him.
Yeah, that did not go well. That did not go well. And the message discipline. I mean, the values aren't any different. We see this with a second-term president. If you're going into the midterms, it's ugly. And I name one that hasn't been there. Right. And so it's not like we haven't seen this before. So it does amaze me that the lessons don't get learned, because Republican or Democrat, it's always that second term, midterm, where things are going to go badly, and you're going to be faced with this. And I would think that the rule book would have been written by now. But
Here's Charlie. I know Charlie, and I think people at the table don't. Is it Hinderleiter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Smart guy.
So he is a smart guy. He's
Political
tweeting.
scientist.
Yeah, he's tweeting at us. Should St. Louis County elected offices be nonpartisan if most of what they do is nonpartisan work?
Actually, he has a point. I mean, a point could be made that maybe that should be done like it is in many municipalities. But frankly, the county was very Republican when they crafted the charter and all the stuff that would craft these elections, and the Republicans decided that it would be partisan. So it's rather funny when it's a Republican saying, well, should it be? Well, you guys did that 50 years ago.
Right.
I didn't give you enough time to talk with the two of you at the table. So what's on your mind as you sit and listen to other people talk about what you guys do?
Well, so I think that the messaging discipline hasn't been there for the Democrats. And I think that what we saw in this election cycle, I'm hopeful that it will change in 2016, but we have to pull ourselves together, and we have to talk about the successes we've had. Even with Barack Obama, in my view, has been a great president. Some wonderful things have happened on his watch, and we need to start talking about those. The few Democrats who I saw that won seats, like my seat, Deb Lavender's seat, Tracy McCreary took my seat, we talked about issues. We told people what we stood for. Our opponents didn't necessarily do that. And I really think that it resonated with the people in my district. And I was willing to say, if these aren't the things that you believe too, then you'll vote for my opponent. But I've got to tell you who I am. I think that Democrats need to be less fearful about doing that. And I think as we go forward and we start to talk about who we are and what we believe and what our vision is for the future of those districts, that state, the nation, then we start to bring people back and they can see with us where we need to head.
Well, I just want to go back to a point that was talked about earlier about Republican possible overreach, having a huge supermajority in both the House and the Senate. I'm not personally worried about that. I know we have very smart leadership in the House, very good leadership in the Senate. They're all really good politicians, and I think policy-wise, they are in tune with what the voters of Missouri want. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these huge majorities. So I'm very confident that we're going to move forward on a pro-freedom, pro-economic growth and economic liberty agenda.
I think we're all pro-freedom, I just have to say.
Right.
I feel like I have to step in and say that.
Well,
Chris,
Jill,
I
I'm not
know,
so
is
sure
a-
about.
Chris, you've been quiet. I know this. Your mind has got to be turning. So, what have I missed? And we can go one more round the table here.
It all comes back to the Recorder of Deeds race, really.
Doesn't it always?
No. You know,
Will same-sex marriage? Are we now a state that allows same-sex marriage? What do you guys?
so any county that begins issuing same-sex marriage licenses, the Attorney General can't stop them, but they aren't forced to.
And the Attorney General, although he is working on behalf of the state and its constitution, he personally
Yes.
does
Made
not
it very clear today.
does not have
Yeah.
a problem with this. So he's going to go ahead and appeal, get this to the state
has
Supreme
appealed,
Court.
yeah.
Why? Why not just leave
But
it
no
where it is?
stay.
But no
Yeah,
stay
no
right
stay.
now.
Because he says that his job as Attorney General is to defend the state laws. Now, he denied that maybe part of this is because he got hammered a few weeks ago when he decided not to challenge the judge's ruling. It was a different same-sex marriage issue, but it was whether or not Missouri has to recognize same-sex marriages formed in other states.
Right.
But he was telling me today that, well, the issues are different. But the bottom line is, he said that he feels it's his job to appeal this and let the court decide. But he made very clear that A, he opposes the same-sex marriage ban, and B, he thinks it hurts the state to, on an economic as well as moral level. He gave a very lengthy speech today at the Missouri Chamber, and that was part of his address.
I thought it was interesting that the Republican response was, you need to appeal, but nobody is going crazy saying, you know, the world's going to end because we're issuing these licenses. I mean, I was in the governor's office when the 2004 ban went in, and I mean, it was, the world's going to end if we don't stop this. Marriage and life as we know it is going to end, and so what we haven't seen is no opposition, basically.
No organized
None. And so I think that shows sort of where we've come on issues. And so we've got candidates that are, you know, when you look at each issue, I think we appear more red than we are. At the same time, you've got supermajorities in the legislature, Republican, gay marriage is happening in Missouri. I mean, that's a dichotomy that eventually is going to have to sort of resolve itself. And so that's the swing I think you talk about.
I think there's also a recognition that even if they were uniformed in outrage against this, there's not anything that they can do. I mean, you know, they could come back and go for another constitutional amendment. It's not going to change anything if the courts say it's unconstitutional.